Tanshi Kiewa. Hello, how are you all? Welcome to Homelands, originally broadcast on CFCR Community Radio, 90.5 FM in Saskatoon, Homelands of the Métis and Treaty 6 territory, cfcr.ca. This is your favorite auntie, Andrea Letting Dishni Kashoon. My name is Andrea Letting. Call me Auntie Andy if you like, and I'll be your host over this next half hour. I'm part settler, part relative, and 100% ally in relation to everyone. I'm just me, not a card-carrying member of any Indigenous nation, but I am loved, adopted, related to, and accepted by many, rejected by a few. Haters gonna hate, relators gonna relate. I am blessed to have Indigenous relations in my family, and secretly I may love them a little bit more than the rest, only because they're the first peoples of this land who welcome all the guests. But I'm also Irish descendant with some Scandinavian, along with a little bit of mystery. And that's the way I was raised, strongly anti-colonial and justice-oriented, with a big related heart for all. I most empathized with my Batoche Métis friends and family and that history and culture growing up, and as an adult have continued to try to live that Neopamitsuin, that beautiful good life. So from the fringes of the sash, I situate myself as a relative and an ally, and welcome you, my listeners, as brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews, cousins in the Homelands. So let's welcome our relative tonight. So exciting. We've done a little bit of travel here, and our guest is Jolene Stockman from down under, just the opposite side of the globe, but very Indigenous, ultra enthusiastic, TEDx speaker, multi-award winning author. Jolene Stockman gives us a view into the world of autism. Diagnosed as an adult, she has achieved things that this so-called invisible disability has deemed impossible. A master of neuro-linguistic programming, she is revolutionizing perceptions and encouraging respect for human neurological variation. She is an author, a speaker, a New Zealand Maori, Tangata Wanuo o Aotearoa, my best attempt. She is also autistic. Without knowing it, she has achieved things that this so-called invisible disability considers challenging at best, impossible at worst. She is one of the youngest in the world to achieve the Distinguished Toastmaster Award for Public Speaking and Leadership, and in 2018 made the courageous decision to go public with her diagnosis. She delivered a TEDx talk that resulted in worldwide interest and exposure. She's excited to speak to audiences in health, education, and childcare, to break myths and stereotypes around autism, and to share what autistics already know. We have challenges, but many of our strengths are actually superpowers. Jolene is a trustee on the board of Innovative New Zealand not-for-profit ASD Connects, and is continuing to raise understanding and, more importantly, optimism around autism. She's also a master of neuro-linguistic programming, which is the study of communication and human behavior, meaning how we interpret language to design our lives. Feeling deeply responsible to make a difference for the little ones who follow after her, she works tirelessly to dispel misconceptions and to shine a light on a new way of seeing an autism diagnosis. Her goals are to acknowledge and accept autism as an opportunity rather than a weakness, show children it's okay to feel good about yourself, create positivity for parents of newly diagnosed children, and join the call for neurodiversity. So kia ora, Jolene.
Oh wow, that was kind of epic, right? All right, live up to it. Tēnā koutou, mā taki mai. I'm so excited to be here. Ko Jolene Stockman quick angio, ko tangata waitaki wātanga, ko taku au tukupu te maunga taranaki, nō reira tēnā koutou katoa. I'm just so honored to be here with your listeners and with you. And I've been listening to your other interviews, and it's just so beautiful. And so it's going to be really hard not to overtalk or talk too fast, but I will breathe and I will listen to your questions and I will be calm. And I'm just so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. This is so great. So tell us more about where you're from, first of all, because you're not from Treaty 6 in the Homelands of the Métis. You're just down, if we go straight down pretty much.
I am in Taranaki, Aotearoa, New Zealand. So we are the land of Lord of the Rings, Jacinda Ardern, the All Blacks, all of those cool things. Because we're such a small country, we have, and population-wise, epicness, we're huge. But we have all of these awesome stats, like per capita, like the most Academy Awards per capita and the most, all of that stuff makes, we've got a lot of pride, because when we achieve something, it just echoes out. It feels like it belongs to all of us, which is really cool. But at the same time, like it's a world of the internet now. So I can be in Aotearoa on the other side of the world, and I can be talking to you, my lunchtime, your dinner time. I mean, how cool is this? It's a whole new world. There really is no division between us. We can be right here, right now.
It's amazing. Yeah. So tell me more about, what does it mean to you to be Maori?
Oh, wow. Okay, this is a huge one. You know, I always knew that I was Maori, but I wasn't raised with that connection to my culture. There's a lot of stigma. I mean, and so growing up, it was like the secret, especially because I don't have the typical skin color. I don't present in the typical way. So there's kind of this element of not fitting as well, like feeling like I know that I have the waka so I know I have the bloodline, but I don't have the confidence that comes with growing up sort of surrounded by your culture. And it was kind of a a thing you sort of tuck away for a long time, even though you know it's there. And it wasn't until I had children that I really started realizing that it wasn't just something that was missing. There was a gap. It was something that if I could fill it, especially for my children, it's an interesting, it's taken, oh my gosh. And it's a journey, right? It's a journey, because I thought, oh, if I learn to speak te reo, if I learn the language, then that would be it. I would tick the box and I would feel Maori, right? But then you learn the language and then there's so much more, culture is so much, the language is key, and it's foundational, and it's beautiful, and it definitely does something to your sort of DNA when you learn it. But there's so much more. And so then you go through that feeling again where it's like, oh, I'm not good enough. Even if I learn the language, I'm not going to be enough. And then, part of that learning is you're on the learning journey with a whole lot of other people. And so you'll find that you are in a classroom with people who have what I would have said, they look Maori, right? Oh my gosh, they have the right skin color and they have the right face shape. And I can see that they're Maori. But then when you speak with them, they've got their own stuff. They've got their own stuff. They don't speak the language, or they don't, have that feeling of culture. And it kind of sucks, right? Because all of us are feeling like we're the only one. All of us are feeling like we've got missing pieces. And yet maybe that's the best thing about us. Maybe that's the reason that we all connect, is because we go, do you know what? We're in this together and we're all missing something that the others have, but maybe that's what makes us bridges to be able to bring more people through, to be able to have that empathy and that understanding, and to not feel so alone with it. What does being Maori mean to me? It is so huge. I guess I don't know. And I guess I'd love to have a really cool answer, right? I'd be like, oh, I feel this. I do. I feel it like every now and then, like you're on the land and you feel it in your bones, or you feel it in your blood. You just do, or you hear the language and you just go somewhere in your mind. And then in other times you feel like so awkward and so out of place and so like you're at the beginning of a really huge mountain. But I think the best part for me is when I hear my children, they speak te reo and they feel Maori in a way that I haven't been able to. And I think it's to do with getting them, when you're very small and you're creating that idea of who you are in your mind. And this has always been something that is true for them. Whereas for me, I feel like I've had to build it, even though that's not true, even though I am just as Maori as them. But to be surrounded by it as a child is just, and so continuing the language, passing on those traditions, all of that, those experiences, it's everything. So you think you're not doing your part, but even just kia ora, when you going saying hi, having that language be every day, normalizing our culture is just, it's making a big difference to our children, and to us. But we're kind of, we're old and we're sort of cynical, and whereas they don't have that. They're just so pure, and to them it has never occurred to them the color of their skin doesn't, that is nothing to do with it, and it doesn't, right? But I just have all the stigma from growing up, and our kids don't have to have that. So how cool if we can get them little. That's why I love the autistic thing as well. It's like if we can get people when they're being diagnosed, when their children are being diagnosed, and change that mindset. What if you never thought of autism as being a disorder or a disadvantage, or a deficit? What if you always thought of it as just a way of processing the world? I mean, that's going to change everything. It really, really is.
Yeah, that really flows into my next question. When were you first diagnosed with autism? How did you feel?
Yeah, it was very much a parallel journey. Oh no, when I was diagnosed, I was an adult, and I was really angry, and I was really scared as well. I knew something wasn't right, but I was just hold with me because this is going to sound weird, but I was hoping for like a brain tumor. I was hoping something that they could cut out, something that they could take away and fix me, because I certainly knew I was broken, because I'm looking around and I know I'm different from everyone else. So to hear that, I didn't know much about autism, I think, like lots of people, but what I did know was that it was bad. It's a bad thing, everything I had heard about it. I didn't want there to be a word that proved people right about me, the things that I'd heard my whole life. Oh, you're weird, you're different, you don't fit. It's like, oh, turns out they were all right. I really am different. I really don't fit. And it's such a journey to get from that place where you're angry and scared, and I didn't tell anybody for years and years. There's no need, right? I'm passing for normal. I'm getting away with it. I don't have to tell anybody. And that's when then I realized about kids are being diagnosed, kids every day. Oh, now adults too, right? Where people are being diagnosed and they're having that same reaction I did, because all they've heard is bad. They don't know that on the other side of it, there is actually so much awesome. This is where the world is going. Like the whole world is about to flip. You talk about how we're sort of more sensitive, and we're heading into this sort of more conscious world. The autistics are already there, right? In so many ways. And it's really, hard not to be super, because I am super excited. I'm super excited, but I don't want to be like toxically positive, where so it's like, oh God, because of that first, I remember that first feeling of just, I don't want this to be my life. I don't want to be different. I just want to be the same. It's funny how we have that real attachment to being the same as everyone else. I just want to be, and my children, please let my children be like everybody else. And then as soon as they grow up, you're like, be different, stand up for yourself, speak up, do what you love. It's like, we got to start that much, much earlier. We got to say to kids when they're very, very small to be different and embrace that. It's scary, but what else is there? What else are we doing? Like let's just bust some things apart that have been slow and boring for a really long time. So I'm excited about it now, but I always acknowledge that when people are first being diagnosed, that because you're just being hit with everything you already know. And there's not a lot of media, not a lot of sort of role models that give you a good feeling about autism. The feelings you're going to get tend to be, oh God, Rain Man, this kind of having some meltdowns in the supermarket, and it is all of those things. It's all of those challenges. But there's a whole autistic joy, there's this whole side of it that nobody talks about because we haven't seen it as a culture, and it is a culture. And it's really exciting to be part of this movement that's coming through now. Because so many of us are growing up, all we're adults, and there's, autistic researchers and autistic doctors and autistic police officers, and that's going to change the world.
That's so awesome. Tell me about, so tying these two questions together, there's a Maori word for autism. Talk about that. I love that.
Okay. The Te Reo Maori word for autism is takiwātanga. I love it. As soon as I heard it, it just lifts a weight off your shoulders. Takiwātanga. It was created in New Zealand by translator and linguist Kiri Opai. It's part of a whole glossary of terms for mental health, and this is empowering, uplifting language. It's been embraced around the world because it just nails it. It literally means in his or her or their own space and time. It's like, yes, there's no deficit, there's no disorder, there's no problem. It's simply a way of experiencing the world. And as soon as you hear that, I love telling parents that takiwātanga, your child experiences the world differently. And they just go, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Suddenly you have to let go of that idea of what you thought life was going to be, with all the rushing and the clock watching and the money being the most important thing. We love money, but really, what we hope that our kids are going to grow up to be lawyers and accountants, and not that there's anything wrong with them. Those are awesome. If you love it, right? If you love it. But in the end, there are people who spend their whole life studying towards some career. They get there and they're breaking down because they're burnt out, because that's not what they love to do. Somehow we've lost the idea that you can just garden if that's what you'd love to do. You can, work with animals. There's a way to do what you love and be in this world, you know, without having to have all of those rules about what success means. I mean, even marriage, right? This idea, oh, I hope my kids get married. Let it go, because there's a lot of divorced people too. And there's a lot of really happy single people. Why do we have all of this? I don't know. It's fun to think about, and it's fun to break it, even though here I am with my degree and my happy marriage and my children. I mean, I have all the building blocks, I guess, so it's easy for me to say, they don't matter. But I just think for children, let's just open it up. Let's just make, like, some people are married and some people aren't, and it's not a big deal. It's really not. But I know when you're a parent, you want your kids to eat the broccoli. Eat the broccoli, be healthy, please, you know, learn and be clever and be amazing. But they're their own people, right? It's really, that's the best part about parenting. It's the hardest part about parenting, is that actually you have no power at all. They're just, you know, you just get to sort of stand by in awe as they become who they're meant to be.
That's a beautiful summary of parenting. Let's move on to what it was like to do your TED Talk. Can you talk about that?
Okay, so I got to the point where I knew I wanted to be out, like tell people that I'm autistic, but I didn't want to have a million awkward conversations, and they are so awkward. I told a few people, and tip for if you're coming out to people as autistic, don't start with I've had a diagnosis, because people freak out and think you're dying, and then it's, oh gosh, no, it's not that. You want people to know that you're serious, this is a serious thing, but also not freak them out. Oh my gosh, it's so complicated. And because I'm already awkward communicator, it's you want to say, oh, I'm autistic, and then people are reacting right to your face. They need time to process, is what I find. Because some people, you tell them and they're like, yeah, duh. And then you're kind of offended, because you're like, there's that feeling again, like, oh, hey, I thought I was doing really well pretending to be normal, and you have known this whole time. So I'm not sure whether I'm, more offended that they're surprised that I'm autistic, or not surprised that I'm autistic. So the poor person can't win. So I was just thinking, I want to come out because I want to be another example of what autism looks like, but I also don't want to have those million awkward conversations. And then TEDx came to my city, and I just thought, I'm so scared. And I hardly told anybody. Like I had to tell people I was autistic, because if they didn't hear it from me, they were going to hear it in the speech. It was like that. So when I said, oh my goodness, I hardly ever even said I'm autistic out loud when they interviewed me to do the TED Talk. And so even saying it to those organizers, I went home and I just thought, I've said it now, it's out. And I felt okay. Like I didn't feel it was okay. It was okay. So I just thought, you know what, I'm going to do this TED Talk, and then I can just send the link out to everybody I know, and I'll never have to talk about it again, because they'll know everything. I'll package it up beautifully, because I'm a writer, so I can write it and I can give it, and then that will be, then I'll be out, and that'll be that. Of course, what I didn't anticipate is that I gave it, and then it just struck a chord with so many people. And the thing with kicking open a door like that is that you can't not go through it. Like people are realizing they're autistic as you speak to them. People are changing their mindset about the way they see their children as you speak to them. That's a gift, and that's an honor to be part of. And so much as I'm sick every time I speak, and I'm so nervous and beside myself, it's just the luckiest and the most beautiful work that I've ever been able to do. So yay for the TED Talk, but my goodness, yeah, there's 5 cameras on you, one on your butt. What? Well, they say it's the audience, but it's your butt. Anyway, sorry. Okay. So yeah, that was really, really very, very stressful. And because normally I'm quite a fast talker, so I had to practice to slow down and to not cry when I was giving it, and all of those things. It's just, but if you have the opportunity to give a talk like that, give it everything you've got. Because I just think if you get hit by a bus the next day, I want to go out knowing that I put everything, left everything out on the field. And I'm not a sports person, but you know what I mean, just everything. So pretty cool. I'm surprised that I lived past that week, just because I really felt like I'd done my thing on the planet after that.
You're also a writer, so tell us about your book. So you've got Total Blueprint for World Domination, you've got The Jelly Bean Crisis, and you've got Jawbreaker, Unlock the Universe. So tell us about those books and what your inspirations were. And
oh my goodness, talk fast. Okay, so I think that it's funny, because I started writing Total Blueprint, which was the first book, when I was a teenager because I couldn't understand. I was trying to figure out the world. It seemed like everyone else had a manual. It really did. And lots of autistics say this. If you talk to them, they'll say, it feels like I'm from another planet. It feels like everyone else knows the rules and I don't, this kind of thing. So now I look back and I'm like, duh, you could diagnose me just based on what I wrote. So I wrote this sort of plan for how to get anything. And then my agent asked me to write a fiction version of that. So I took the ideas from that book and turned it into the Jelly Bean Crisis. And again, the Jelly Bean Crisis, this one's about a girl who has a scholarship to Columbia, and it's Americanized, this book, and she has everything, but maybe she doesn't really love that life. So she decides to take a month off and try everything she's never tried to see what she actually loves to do instead of following the path that was sort of laid out for her. And I love that book because the idea behind the jelly bean thing is that she has a theory where the way she eats her jelly beans, and I do that with my lollies too, you line them up in order, right? And you determine the best ones and the worst ones based on color and flavor and texture. It's a whole thing. Turns out that's kind of an autistic thing as well. It's like, oh, really? All these things, the diagnosis is, as an adult, is just, you've got to breathe, right? And if you need to put it in a box in the back of your cupboard for a long time, then it's okay, because suddenly you're looking every element of your life that you thought was you, that you thought you reacted a certain way. Turns out there was this like filter over everything. And so some of the things that you thought, oh, I was weak, you look back now and you go, gosh, how did I do that? I was so overwhelmed and I still did it. I was actually strong. And you go, oh, I'm just somebody who eats their candy in a strange way. It's like, no, that's another autistic thing. So it can be really overwhelming, that whole journey, if you choose, because you can also put it in a box. Because if you're pulling off normal, it's not like you have to come out. You don't have to tell anyone. Can you hear my dog? That's how you know it's live, because dogs are here. Sorry, right. Oh, good. Was that and Jawbreaker? Jawbreaker was again about Molly. Sorry. Shh, don't. Oh my gosh. Come on. Oh my gosh. Shall I get her? Molly, don't. Or should I let her out? She can chase the cat and then it's over.
Jawbreaker Unlock the Universe is the name of the third title. And Jolene is just about to tell us about that book.
So then I have Jawbreaker, which is the book all about discovering who you are. Because again, I was sort of trying to figure out what I loved and what made me me. And it's really, really cool to look back with an autistic lens and just go, do you know what? I think this is what a lot of autistics sort of struggle with, because we're so busy trying to be like everyone else and trying to fit in, that you bury the parts of you that are really pure, so getting back to those can end up being like a lifelong thing. Although that's true for lots of people, right? Lots of us just bury ourselves in expectations and society, and we go, oh, hey, actually, do you know what? I just want to make mud pies and eat chips and dip for tea. And you can do that because when you're an adult, you have all the choices. It's great.
So to lead into the next questions, what would you tell parents of autistic children, or what would you tell adults who've been diagnosed?
Okay, so adults first. When you've been diagnosed, I think you've got to give yourself time. You don't have to tell anyone. You don't even have to agree with it if you don't want to. This is absolutely whatever feels right for you. There's no pressure to tell your employers if you don't want to. I know when I went and spoke in Singapore, they offered to hide my identity because of the levels of there's just this shame around it. And so I'm not saying you have to come out to make things better for the little kids. I'm in such a good position. I'm privileged as an autistic. I'm married and I have a job. I work for myself, so no one's going to fire me. I don't have to worry about anything like that. So I just thought, for me, coming out was easy. For others, it's not so easy. And I think respecting that for yourself, just because you've learned this new thing about yourself, it doesn't mean anyone else has to. It can just be for you, and you can work through it as slowly or as quickly as you want. And you're allowed to be really angry. Be angry, man. Because basically you look back on your life and you're like, look at all those opportunities where I was in trouble for being who I am. Or maybe I walked into situations that I would never walk into, knowing that it would overwhelm me. So there's a lot of emotion to work through. So advice for autistic adults: take your time, do what feels right, and yay, welcome aboard, because it's really, there is actually a point at which it gets amazing. Okay, and for the parents, okay, listen to your child. They're always telling the truth. A lot of us grow up hearing things like, it's not that bad, no one else can smell it, oh, it doesn't hurt, you're exaggerating, you're being oversensitive. Oh, those flow off me way too easily, don't they? So it's that idea that autistic kids are going to be the ones who say, oh, there's a tag in the back of my clothes and it hurts me, it's cutting me. The sound is hurting, it's hurting my brain, or it's, you know, we're trying to find language that expresses to the people around us, because, you know, we're looking around and we're seeing no one else is worried about the sound. You don't need to tell me that no one else is worried about it. I can see that. So when an autistic person, or when any person, right, says a need, they say, I'm hurting, I'm struggling, the sound, the light is too bright. Just hearing them is huge. Just saying, okay, what can we do about that? I hear that I see that that's really bright for you. It's telling them that their feelings matter. It's telling them that they have a right to have needs. I mean, so many autistics grow up, we don't ask for help and we don't tell people we need anything because we're so used to pretending that everything's okay. Oh my gosh, and just holding our breath around smells. You get so used to doing it, you don't even realize you're doing it. And that's why that's why that diagnosis process is so magical, because it kind of layers and layers of your life are coming open. Don't freak out. It's okay. Just eat a lot of chocolate. It is fine. But yeah, for the parents, trust your child, because children, they don't lie, and they're not exaggerating. They really are just trying to communicate with you that something in their environment is too much. And I think we just take for granted how life is, right? Like when the COVID, and they did the supermarkets, and it got quiet at the supermarkets, and they were doing like autism hour. I don't know, do you guys, you probably have that autism hour at the supermarket, where they sort of dull the lights and they turn the sound off and they don't make those horrible announcements, and it gets really quiet. And the autistics are just loving it, because that's how we want life to be. And the neurotypicals are like, this is awesome. This is awesome. So it's almost like autism friendly is human friendly. We just haven't thought to listen. We've been so busy going, let's have more things yelling at us in capital letters and big colors. And it's like, actually, you can just turn the lights down and you can just breathe. And a lot of the time, that's what autistics, or that's what children will do that too. I mean, we're rushing them all the time. We take it for granted that they have to get in the car and they have to hurry up because we have somewhere to be. It's like, they don't have anywhere to be. They are quite happy taking 3 hours putting their jacket on. And again, that's parenting, right? You just have to calmly realize that your life is not in your control anymore, and that time has a whole different quality to it. You know, autism, and it all sort of is very complementary. And I think it's all coming together to make the world better for everyone. You know, we're all going to breathe. It's going to be okay. After a few of us have had some real, meltdowns to get the attention, because no one listens if you just say, oh, it hurts. But sometimes you need someone to throw themselves on the ground and say, I'm not doing this anymore. You know, and so in a sense, I'm really in awe of those autistics, because they are making sure we get help, whereas I would just sort of suck it up. You know, a lot of us, it's not just me, it's the autistics that mask, will just pretend everything's okay. And it's not okay. And it's okay to say it's not okay, right? Because that's how we get change.
That's a beautiful message. So we are right at the end of our half hour, but Kishi Marcy, to our relative tonight, Jolene, Niwag, Maganak, all my relations, and believe me, we are all related, so act like you've got relations. This is Auntie Andy signing out from Homelands, originally produced on CFCR Community Radio, 90.5 FM in Saskatoon, Homelands of the Métis and Treaty 6 Territory, CFCR.ca. You can also find excellent programming on Indian and Cowboy podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter at Métis Homelands and email us at métishomelands@gmail.com. This episode will also be viewable on our YouTube channel, Homelands, so subscribe today. Marcy, thank you for listening. And Akoshi, Kawapa Mitina Wow Mina. That's all. We'll see you later.